Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about organizations within Islam that are labeled as terrorist groups by Western countries. For a long time until this day, the Middle East has been in the news largely because of these three Islamic fundamentalist groups, namely the Hamas, the Fatah and Hezbollah. If you want to know more about the history and the characteristics of these groups, then watch this video. Stick around because we are going to explore it all. For more in-depth information, you can check out my book Ask Your Muslim Friend, where I cover this topic in section 1.6.10. Most of the origins of the armed conflicts in the Middle East can be traced back to these three organizations, the Fatah, Hamas, Hezbollah. When Arafat was president of the Palestinian Authority, the PA, Fatah, the military wing of the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, carried out numerous attacks. The PLO was Israel's official negotiating partner for peace and has publicly renounced terrorism. Yet the PLO still cares for and honors the family of suicide bombers and even names a large number of streets, schools and other facilities after them. It is thus at least indirectly involved in terrorist attacks against Israel, which makes peace negotiations a farce. This raises a big question, and I'm asking you to think about this. Why have the peace negotiations in the Middle East mostly been in place only temporarily and thus have failed to bring about long-term peace? What do you think are the answers? Please let me know. Next, let me talk now about some peace talks in the Middle East. The reconciliation in 2011 and the formation of a unity government in 2014 between the Fatah and the Hamas have made further peace talks with Israel impossible for many years. The Hamas, which means seal, is the militant Palestinian offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. Following the withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip in 2005 and the crackdown of the Fatah after the 2006 elections, Hamas formed the government in Gaza and terrorized Israel from there with rocket fire and kidnappings.
The acronym for the group that they created in Arabic was HAMAS, which also meant zeal or intense enthusiasm, passion, or fervor for a cause. Although the name wouldn't officially be used until January 1988, when they published their charter outlining their reason for existing. They called for an armed resistance to establish a Palestinian state and the destruction of Israel.
The Hamas group is opposed in any form of peace with Israel and is openly anti-Semitic in its founding charter and its propaganda campaigns. Let me outline some significant points of the charter. It denies Israel's right to exist. It has the Salafist roots and links to the Muslim Brotherhood, whose slogan is Allah is its goal, the Prophet is the model, the Quran its constitution, Jihad its path, and the death of the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. It is uniquely Palestinian, and they proclaim that the day of judgment would not come until the Muslims fight and kill the Jews. There is no negotiated settlement possible. Jihad is the only answer. And this group also declares the role of women in Islamic society to be that of makers of men. Women are homemakers and child rearers. It praises the PLO but condemns its secularism. It claims that Jews are responsible for drug trafficking, alcoholism, wars, moral corruption, and trying to eliminate Islam. It calls all Muslims worldwide to work for the liberation of Palestine. It depicts the Temple Mount in Jerusalem as the axis mundi, or world axis, symbolically representing the connection between heaven, earth, and the underworld. Next, in addition to what I mentioned already, let me highlight some significant points about the Fatah movement. The Fatah movement was founded in 1959 by members of the Palestinian diaspora. Fatah became the dominant force in Palestinian politics after the Six-Day War in 1967. Fatah was always involved in an armed struggle against the State of Israel, especially during the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2005. Fatah intensified armed conflict against Israel by conducting several suicide attacks. Its founder and leader was Yasser Arafat. He died in 2004, and his successor was Farouk Kaldoumi. In 2009, Abbas was elected chairman of the Fatah. Fatah is also active in the control of Palestinian refugee camps. There have been numerous expressions of discontent and splits within the Fatah movement.
If you are enjoying this breakdown of these three Islamic terrorist groups, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We have more content like this coming your way.
Let's talk about Hezbollah. It's the Lebanese group that's back in the headlines.
There's been an intense exchange of rocket fire across the Israel-Lebanon border.
Hezbollah fires across the border every day.
Israel is targeting what it says are Hezbollah cells.
Some countries classify Hezbollah as a terror group, but it's also deeply embedded in Lebanese politics and society.
The Hezbollah, which means Party of Allah, is based in Lebanon and is financed by the Shiites of Iran. So this is a Shiite group. It must be said that this group also receives financial help from Sunni groups. Hezbollah spreads the propaganda in Europe through the Al-Manar television channel called The Lighthouse. In France, the station was banned in 2004 because of its anti-Semitic content. Hezbollah is classified as a terrorist organization by the US, Canada and Israel. In terms of size, structure and weaponry, it is almost an army that dominates southern Lebanon. As a political party, Hezbollah is represented in the Lebanese parliament. On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas and several other Palestinian militant groups launched a coordinated attack from Gaza into southern Israel. A total of 1,139 people were killed, namely Israeli civilians, 71 foreign nationals and 373 members of the security forces. Some 250 Israelis were taken hostage in the Gaza Strip to force Israel to exchange them for imprisoned Palestinians. 44 countries condemned the attack, describing it as terrorism. The day was labeled the bloodiest in Israel's history and the deadliest for Jews since the Holocaust. The Middle East will never be the same after this horrible attack. As a result, there has been an ongoing war which has occurred in the Middle East, involving many Islamic terrorist groups and many countries. How can Christians and Muslims discuss this sensitive issue of Israel's role? It is my experience that many Muslims have a general hatred against Jews and the State of Israel. This hatred is passed from generation to generation within the Muslim community. There is considerable debate on the nature of anti-Semitism in Islam, many Muslim attitudes towards Jews, Islamic teachings on Judaism, and the treatment of Jews in Islamic societies. But I also like to state that the topics of Israel, Judaism, and the Holocaust do not have to be excluded when talking to Muslims. In my experience, if there is an open atmosphere for discussion, this can even be a good starting point, since they are usually interested in these topics. It is a chance to refute many entrenched prejudices. In addition, the history of Israel plays a prominent role in the Christian faith and contains many vivid examples of how God seeks a relationship with people and intervenes in their lives. Of course, it is important to remember that the aim is not to win an argument with a Muslim friend, but to have a positive and helpful conversation. In conclusion, I'd like to ask you the following questions. First, why do you think the peace talks in the Middle East never had any long-term good results? Second, would you say that these three groups are legitimate Islamic movements? Or would you personally distance yourself from these groups? Thirdly, do you have any suggestion how peace could be established in the Middle East? And fourthly, how is your view on the state of Israel? Number 5, what do you think about the Jewish people? If you find this video informative, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper into this topic, leave them in the comments and I will be happy to respond. You can also find more detailed information in my book, available for free download on our website. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care and God bless you.